Good morning, everyone. If somebody can put a hand up or tell me that you can hear me in the chat, that would be great to make sure that I'm not just talking to myself. Yeah, everybody can hear me. Perfect. All right, cool. Welcome on this Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock here in WA. We are going to look at Facebook ads. That's what you guys are here for. So without further ado, I'm just going to start sharing my screen and show you what we are all about. Okay, so in case you don't know, I work for Business Station as a contractor, and we have an amazing program here, which is essentially funded by the government, $44 for 3 hours of one-on-one time with somebody like myself and 4 hours worth of workshops and events just like this one here. If you, after the session or even during the session, want to have a quick look at that, go to businessstation.com.au. And then if you mouse over the digital solutions section on the top left, you'll see the advisor link down there. Obviously, I'm just one of many. So if you go down there, you can see there's a whole bunch of us basically helping small businesses get better online. And I would highly recommend to check it out. And then if you want to, register to go a little bit deeper in terms of specifically your business needs and what you want to get done with your business, just hit the register button. $44, it's a no-brainer. All right, I am jumping straight into Facebook now. And essentially, what I want to talk about today is very basically how Facebook works, how you can make the most out of it as a business, a small business, and some of the pitfalls that you need to look out for, and then some of the things that you should be doing. So does everyone here, is anyone familiar with Facebook advertising? Let me just ask that question quickly. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat during the time that we are spending together. And what I try and do in the last 5 or 10 minutes to really have some questions answered specifically to your issues or, basically what you want to know. All right, so okay, you've only ever boosted. Okay, cool. All right, that's fine. All right. Right, so this might look familiar to some people. If you want to go into your business manager, now what you need for any, let me see if I can move this out of the way. There we go. If you want to move, basically get any advertising running on Facebook, there's 3 things that you need. And those 3 things are usually the obviously ad account. So you can see one of my business managers here. I got a few clients that I work with at the moment, but I'm just using this one as an example. So Digital Coach is my business. Essentially what I do is we'll have a ad account. You've got a page that you need that has to be associated with the ads that you're going to be running. So you can see here, that's my primary business page in this case. And the other thing you need is a pixel. And the pixel is essentially a piece of tracking code that will allow Facebook to learn from their campaigns to see what works and what doesn't work, and essentially get smarter, and you get more clicks for your budget. All right, so if we're going to jump straight into this section here. Now, this is your ads manager. And if you boost posts, there's a lot of things that you won't be able to see on your screen because a lot of features are basically dumbed down on the boost side of things. This is much more this is a lot more information, a lot more things that you can do in here. So what I'm going to show you guys is the campaign structure. You can see 3 tabs at the top here. So you got your campaign level at the first. Then the next tab underneath that essentially is going to be an ad set. So they live underneath your campaigns. And then every ad set will have ads associated with that ad set. So it's a 3-layer setup. And essentially every layer will have different options to set up specific features, type of website you want to get clicks on, what sort of campaign you want to run. Now you click on the create button, very simple. And what will happen is you'll have a pop-up here. So campaign objectives are important. And this essentially is going to tell Facebook, hey, this is specifically what I'm trying to achieve at Facebook, because it doesn't always have to be likes or shares or sales or leads. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, this is where you start off with at your campaign level. So essentially awareness, you can see here, this is good for reach, brand awareness, video views, and store location awareness. This is usually pretty cheap to run because essentially you're not asking Facebook to get people to buy your stuff straight away. Traffic is one of the old favorites. This is good for link clicks, landing page views, Messenger and WhatsApp, and getting phone calls. Engagement, you can see here, this is good for Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp. Video views, post engagement, and conversions. Leads, instant forms, messenger, conversions, and calls. App promotion, if you have an app, you want to get people to install your app, this is the objective that you would use. And sales is good for conversions, catalog sales, messenger, and WhatsApp. Now, depending, if you're like an online store, you're trying to get people to buy your stuff online, obviously you want to go for the sales objective here. If you want to get some brand awareness and you want more people to know about your actual brand and business, the awareness is a good option. If you have a landing page, if you're, for example, a coach and you're trying to get people to sign up for your program, or you want people to download something because you're building your email list, traffic is always a good spot to get started. And then leads is when people essentially can fill out a form on Facebook to send you their information because they're interested in what you have to offer. Now, based on these things, you'll find that along the path of the ad set and then your ad, there are certain things that will either be enabled or disabled. So make sure that you pick the right campaign objective. Now, if I'm going to go for traffic is obviously one of the main ones that people use at this stage. And what we're going to do is select traffic and hit continue. You'll see that the 3 tabs here are represented. Again, this is your campaign level, your ad set level, and your ad. And you can see it in the breadcrumb trail here as well. You got your campaign, your ad set, and your ad. Okay, new traffic campaign. This is essentially where Facebook now asks you, okay, what are you trying to get out of this? And there's a few options here, and I'm going to go through those one by one. New traffic campaign. So let's say we have a page that we want to get people into, and this could be a download page, right? So this might be, for example, you might have a freebie or a lead magnet, as we call it, which is essentially, hey, I'll give you this PDF or a video for free if you give me your email address. That's one of the main things that a lot of online course creators and coaches and consultants use. So if you have a traffic campaign there, you're going to go down traffic objective. As you can see here, you can still make changes here if you change your mind. But just keep in mind that once you save and publish an ad, you can't change any of this anymore, and you'd have to basically start from scratch or duplicate your old setup. So we're going to leave that as is. And moving down here, we have an option to say there's a limit that we want to spend on this campaign. And this could basically say, look, whatever happens, I don't want to spend more than X amount. So you might have a specific budget in mind. Always put it in there as a bit of a safety buffer just in case. A/B testing. A/B testing is nothing more than basically giving Facebook options to show people different elements of an ad to see what actually performs best. Now, with the A/B test, if I turn that on, you'll actually find that quite often you'll need a bigger budget, simply because the way A/B testing works is the more data we get, the better we understand what works, or the better Facebook understands what works. And that could cost quite a bit of money. Just what I would do is I would leave that off as a basic setup. And I'll get to that because there is still an option to do some A/B testing down the second tab we're going to get into. And then Advantage Campaign Budget Plus. This used to be called CBO, Campaign Budget Optimization. Essentially what this means is at the campaign level, so the first tab, we basically say to Facebook, hey, I want you to spend this much money and you can do whatever you want with that based on spending it on whichever ads that you feel is going to work best for us. So just turn that on because it's basically their AI. And then campaign budgets, you can have daily and lifetime budgets. There's some slight differences in terms of why you would use one over the other, but essentially daily budget would work best for most people. So $20 here, Australian dollars. Make sure that when you set up your account, you've actually selected the currency correctly, because I've seen a few people, they basically set up an account and it's in US dollars and you can't change that afterwards. And then they get a surprise afterwards that, their $1,000 invoices in Australia, not in Australian dollars, but in US dollars, which at the moment is not great. All right, then we have a campaign bid strategy. And this is essentially, you can make some changes to say, well, I want to either have my highest volume, which as you can see, gets the most results for our budget. You can have a cost per result goal to say, well, I'm trying to aim for a certain cost per results while still maximizing the volume of results. And you can get into something a little bit more sophisticated here with bid caps. And for beginners, I would always say just use the highest volume. Let Facebook do the heavy lifting and all the thinking. And then down here, there's a few more options, ads scheduling. So you can make changes to that. If you would, for example, change your lifetime budget here, So from daily to lifetime, you can now decide, hey, I actually want to run these ads just in the weekends or whatever it is. So because we don't use that, we just use daily budget at the moment. We will leave that as is. Okay. $20. Here we go. And I'll jump into the chat from time to time to see if there's any questions. No questions just yet. No, people have been boosting and you haven't used since it turned into meta. Okay, that's cool. All right, does all of this stuff make sense so far? Like the actual structure of how this would be set up? When you're boosting, you're essentially just working on the ad level, and on the ad level, it's like, well, you know, you can pick and choose your target and who you want to get in front of, but you can see that this is a lot more features that you can actually enable, disable, and really tweak and adjust. All right, so let's hit the next button. So let's say this is the campaign. We're quite happy with the way that's been set up. We go for the next session here. And this is now under your ad set. Now, an ad set is essentially, you can have multiple ad sets underneath a single campaign. And this could be because you're trying to target different types of audiences, right? Or you'll have, basically this is where you make some changes where you can start doing a little bit of testing in terms of which audience do I believe is the right audience? What am I trying to get from them? So in this case, you'll see there's a few options here. So WhatsApp is set as the default destination. Facebook will sometimes make changes here and it'll automatically basically decide what they think is best, but you know, make sure that you take them with a grain of salt and say, look, if I want to get people to my website, there's no point in having WhatsApp as the default destination. So we're going to select website here. So on the website side of things, essentially what it means is you send traffic to a site or a page more specifically, right? So it's not just your homepage. You would actually send people to like an offer page because you want to make sure that that page where you're basically paying for those clicks is actually going to do the thing that you want it to do. I'll get to the dynamic creative in a second here. All right, optimization and delivery. Optimization for ad delivery. So what it essentially means is we're telling Facebook, okay, I want you to make sure that you're showing as many people who are more likely to, for example, basically not just click on the ad, but actually open and load the page itself. If you optimize for link clicks, quite often people will accidentally click a link and it'll just bounce back out or it doesn't even load or whatever. And what happens is you'll find that you're going to get a lot of clicks, but you're not going to get that much results. So landing page views is sometimes a little bit more expensive to optimize for, but at least we know that whoever clicked on the ad and link has actually taken the time to open up the page and had a look at it, right? And then you can make your decision based on, is this campaign working for me, yes or no? Daily unique reach, you can see this is basically delivers your ads to people up to once a day. And impressions will deliver your ads to people as many times as possible. So there are a few options there. My favorite essentially is landing page reviews because it actually tells me that, hey, we know for sure that this person has seen the page. And, you know, if the page isn't converting, then we know we need to do some work there. All right, when you get charged and the cost per result goal, we obviously didn't select it in the actual campaign level. So this is going to be grayed out here. And this is what I mean by whatever you choose in the beginning will enable or disable certain functions in the next steps that we take. We can't change any of this either. So you're going to get charged per impression. And what that means is there's this thing called CPM, and CPM is cost per mil. And what it means is essentially for every 1,000 impressions, Facebook will charge you a certain amount of money. Now that will vary if you're optimizing for link clicks and it's a very broad audience and it might be in a different country. You'll find that your CPM can be really, really low, up to like $1 or $2 maybe. If you're going to target specifically, let's say you've got an audience that is highly defined, females between 30 and 50 in a specific area, and you're optimizing for landing page views, your CPM is going to go up because that's the more valuable type of person we're trying to get in front of. And essentially everything here works on an auction. So Facebook has obviously a lot of other advertisers, and they're going to basically decide, okay, who's willing to pay the most for this click? Who's more relevant than the other person? What is the expected outcome that we believe is that person's going to take? So the more refined it gets, the more expensive your CPMs become. So just keep that in mind. Quick question here. When I do a post, Facebook asks me if I want to run as an ad. Yeah, so that is essentially boosting. That's basically Facebook trying to get people who don't really do this every day to try and at least make use of the platform and get seen by more people. All right, what we get here is the budget and scheduling. So essentially, we can have an end date, a start date, and that's pretty self-explanatory, right? So let's say you've got a webinar running on a certain day. For example, I've got a client who is running a webinar today, and we have set the end date for about an hour before the registrations close. So we don't have to look at that again. We make sure that we know for a fact that ad is going to stop once we hit that time frame. Okay, what we then go for here. Again, we have some ad set spend limits. So not only can you set up your spending limit on the campaign level, which is the overall section, but excuse me, essentially per ad set, we can also say, well, we want to set a daily minimum or a daily maximum. Now, some of the things here gets a little bit more advanced, because essentially what you can do, let's say you would run 3 different ad sets, one campaign, 3 different ad sets, and these are all targeting a different type of audience. Essentially, what happens quite often is that Facebook will quickly pick and choose one of those ad sets because they think that's probably going to be the most successful one. However, if you want to really test this, what you can do is, let's say we spend $100 across, or let's say $30 across 3 ad sets. So technically, every ad set should be able to spend $10, right? So we can say here, well, per ad set, we want to have a daily minimum of, say, $10 at least, because what happens now is Facebook is actually going to divvy up that money between those 3 ad sets equally, and then you have a better comparison to see what actually worked or not. Because quite often, once we look at certain things like how many impressions did an ad set get or an ad get, and we say, well, this one's working really well, but it had 10,000 impressions, and the other one who wasn't working only had like 200 impressions. Now we can't compare that, right? Because it's a very different number of people that actually saw those ads. So I'm not going to go into this too much further, but yeah, these are options for you to really tweak and maintain sort of the outcome that you're trying to achieve here. All right, audiences. Now, audiences are an important thing as well, clearly. So an audience is essentially the type of person or the people that you put in a bucket that you want Facebook to show your ads to. So the beauty of this is that you can tell Facebook exactly who you want to see your ads to be shown to, even with retargeting things, right? So you can look at things like, okay, somebody, for example, in my initial campaign has clicked on the ad and went to the landing page, but they didn't buy anything. We can then have those people put into a different audience, and we would send them a different ad. So the ad would then be, for example, be something along the lines of, hey, don't forget, you still got something in your shopping trolley, or free shipping if you buy this in the next 24 hours, or whatever sort of action we can prompt, or whatever prompt we can give people to take that action to actually complete the thing that you were trying to get them to do in the first place. And this is where people start saying, oh, Facebook is listening to my phone calls and stuff, but that's retargeting per audience, and that can be quite complex to set up. But essentially, what you always want to keep in mind is that you're talking to one person with your ad. One person sees your ad, and that's the person you're trying to interact with, and really follow them around with the right type of messaging. There's no point sending out an ad and then just repeating it over and over and over and over again if they don't actually take action on the first call. So you need to look at what sort of objections might somebody have that they decided not to go ahead with the purchase. For e-commerce, for example, there are 4 sort of events that we always keep track of. So one of them would be, okay, when somebody looks at the product page itself. The next one would be a logical action, that is, somebody will click on add to cart. The next step there is initiate checkout, when they actually start putting in their email or their address details and payment details. And then the 4th one is purchase. Now, let's say somebody actually went through all the way to initiate checkout and they dropped out and they basically didn't buy. Chances are that they saw the shipping cost and they were like, well, I'm actually not keen on spending an extra 10, $20 on shipping. So yeah, I'm actually not going to buy this thing. So what you would want to do there is put that person in a different audience with the retargeting ad, and that ad would say, hey, free shipping for the next 24 hours. And now people go like, oh, wow, what a coincidence. I looked at this a few days ago and I didn't buy it because the shipping was too expensive, but now it's free shipping. And they still complete the purchase. Does that all make sense? Let me know if there's any questions. I try to, yeah, cool, Amy. Thank you. Perfect. All right. Now, when we create audiences, there are a few things we can do here. So you can search existing audiences. On this account, I don't actually have any audiences set up, but let's say some of the things that are important to know. So if we're going to create a new audience here, obviously first thing, location, and it'll give you some options here to say, well, people living in or recently in this location, people living in this location, or were recently in this location, or traveling in this location. I always go, well, based on most of the work that I do with my clients, people living in this location, simply because people living in or recently in this location could indicate that this potentially could be somewhere like a tourist, for example, or somebody who travels for work or whatever it might be. And chances are that, they are long gone by the time that we try to get in front of them. And essentially what happens is somebody who's never ever going to be a customer will still see your ad, and it still gets counted against your CPM that I mentioned before. So always choose people living in this location, simply because you want to make sure that, hey, we actually know this person is around. Now down here, you can pick and choose your location. So if I'm going to go for Perth, and I will select Perth, WA, and then I will actually remove, no, we don't have to remove that. That's already done. Okay, and here you have a radius, and you can see underneath the map, you can see, you can change the size of your radius to say, okay, I really want people, 10 miles in Perth. For some reason, my account's been set to miles instead of kilometers, but usually that should work fine either way. You can see on the map roughly where you're actually going to reach people. So let's say I've got, I want to have, reach people that are in Joondalup as well, and perhaps even Rockingham. So I'm going to say, well, I'm going to widen this all the way up to include Rockingham here as well, as you can see. This is important simply because we want to make sure that we target the right area for the type of product that we're trying to do. Okay, so Perth, West Australia, but we can also say, for example, look, I potentially want to exclude, I keep zooming in and out of this, hold on. I maybe want to exclude people who live in Joondalup. So I'm going to type Joondalup here. It'll pick that up. And then you can see here, the option is with the drop down, we can say we want to exclude that location. So now the radius of Joondalup, and we could probably make it a little bit smaller. So let's say 10. We're basically telling Facebook, I want to reach everybody around here, except for people who live in this area. Now, it only goes as little as 10 with the radius, 10 miles. You can also just do the current city only. And essentially what it means is Facebook is now really narrowing down not just the radius around it, but it actually makes it a bit smaller to technically define the entire city or suburb of Joondalup. But everything that's on the edges of that will actually still start seeing your ads. Okay, sound is fine for you. Good. Oh, sound, yep. Let me know, Claudia, because everyone else can, yeah, you can all hear it. All right. Not sure, Claudia, maybe it's your PC computer. Anyway, all right, so ages. So obviously this is another important factor, because you want to make sure that, you should know your ideal client, right? You need to know, like, okay, like I said, 35 to 55, perhaps females, who essentially are my ideal client. And I can know, as a business, you should know who you're selling to. So whoever that person is, make sure that you set that up here, because that's technically who you want to get in front of. And what we look for here on the right-hand side, you can see that every time I make a change, that will actually update. So currently the estimated audience size is 274,000 and 323,000. If I say all genders, you see that's updated, and now there's 523,000 and 615,000 people. So really, every time you make a limitation, your audience size will shrink. So keep that in mind, that you want to make sure you have enough people in here to get in front of, to let Facebook do its thing and pick the right audience or the right people from that audience. So detailed targeting, you can do a few things in here: demographics, interests, or behaviors. So let's say somebody, we're in a health industry, and we want to look at certain things like, okay, let's say we got a gym, and we want to make sure that whoever we're getting in front of has somehow indicated to Facebook that they are interested in health clubs and fitness. You can see as soon as I select that interest, my audience went down to about 80,000 to 90,000. And I would always recommend have at least 100,000 people in an audience to have enough data for Facebook to figure out what actually is going to work for you. So what happens here? Basically, the first one, you can click on suggestions, but nothing will really happen. But if I select the first one, and this is once again the health club, now what happens is I can add another demographic and I can just hit suggestions. And now you can see Facebook is based on that health club, the initial interest. Now they're actually going to give us a bunch of other stuff here. So you can add as many as you like here, right? Somebody might be specifically interested in CrossFit, for example. You can see that my audience size has now gone up to 135 to 159,000. And you can keep going with that. Normally what I would say is when you have ads running, I would have one, what we call a blanket audience. And a blanket audience is essentially just the age bracket and the gender and location. And that's it. We don't actually go into any of the interests, because that should give Facebook a larger audience where they can technically find as many people as they can. If we really start narrowing this down with specific items here, it means that sometimes Facebook is just not going to be able to find the person that you're looking for because you've excluded them from your audience. So another thing here, you can start excluding people as well, right? So we want, for example, if we're going to go for the health thing again, but we don't want to, we're not a healthcare provider or whatever. So we actually can say, well, we want to, hold on, I did it in the wrong spot. Exclude. So down here, excluding people. So let's say we don't want people to see our ad if they are in healthcare for whatever reason, healthcare, medical services. And you can see, once again, this has changed the audience size here. So play around with this. And like I said, what I would have is at least 3 different ad sets, one blanket audience, but then 2 audiences that are basically set up a little bit more with more information and more detailed, but make sure that there's a big enough difference between the 2. So, you know, you can, for example, target males and females. One ad set would be male, one ad set would be female. And then basically this is how you A/B test and see what actually works best for you. So I'm going to just delete all of these for now because we're going to use the blanket audience here. What happens here? Advantage detailed targeting. This is essentially telling Facebook they have a hall pass to say, okay, look, if you can't find anybody in my audience that I've defined for you, then I give you permission to look outside of that audience. So they will actually try first and foremost the audience that you've defined for them. But if they can't find anybody for the budget that you have available, etc., or the events you're trying to optimize for, you can let people, you can let Facebook wander out of that audience a little bit further. And this is one of the things I would test, right? I would have one defined audience with this on, and then I would have one that is very similar, but I would have that on. And essentially, all you do is keep an eye on your ads and see or which ad sets are actually performing better. All makes sense so far. I'm still seeing everybody's no issues with the sound, so that's good. If it all makes sense, let me know. If it doesn't, also let me know because I can address those. Okay, so down here, last section, and don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the dynamic creative section up there, but I'm going to get to that in a second. So last section on here on your ad set is placement. Placement is essentially where do you want these ads to be shown? And obviously, Facebook or Meta has a massive amount of visibility. So, you know, people can actually, I'll show you what it looks like here. People can select, you want to have your ads shown on Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, or the audience network. And these are all the possibilities. So your feed is usually the biggest one. And a feed essentially means like the main Facebook feed or your main Instagram feed. But then you can go down a little bit further. For example, the Facebook right-hand column, Instagram Explorer, Instagram Shop, etc. Stories and Reels. And you can see every time I mouse over one of these, it'll have a different, maybe not those. It'll have a different example on the right-hand side to sort of guide you and tell you, hey, this is sort of what it looks like, and this is where it'll be showing. So if you're going to be picky about your placements, I would definitely jump in here and make sure that you exclude all the placements that you're not using. And the reason for that is every time you have some creative, or let's say a video or a photo, whatever, every placement will have a different dimension requirement. So quite often, sometimes you'll see an ad that is obviously only made with the desktop feed in mind, but it looks really wonky on a mobile device. So keep that in mind when you start using placements to really pick and choose the one that you want to get onto. Audience network, I normally turn that off. this is really, really bad traffic. 95%, this is people on apps and random places on the internet that somehow are connected with Facebook. And yeah, we find that it's very cheap, but it's also very trashy traffic. So the audience network, you can check off here. Messenger, you can pick and choose if you want to use that. Now, before I jump into any of this other stuff, what I would recommend as a starter or beginner to use the Advantage Plus placements. Obviously, Facebook recommends this, and really everything that has like a little star icon behind it, it tells you that this is something that Facebook can take care of for you with their AI and their machine learning, et cetera, et cetera. So Advantage Plus placements recommended is the easy way to do this. Instead of trying to figure out, and this is probably when you get a little bit more advanced and you kind of know what you're doing, this is when you want to start looking at these placements. But other than that, just use the Advantage Plus. Simply let Facebook do the heavy lifting for you once again. All right. Bob, if that's the case, budget-wise, you would always splurge. Okay. I'll get to the budgeting side of things. So we use the ad sets. Now, so when I say ad set, so you have your campaign level at the top, then underneath your campaign, you've got your ad set. And then within your ad set, every ad set will have ads attached to it. So essentially, we are at the second level here. Does that mean we have to have a different ad also for all placements? Yes and no. But essentially, let Facebook do the heavy lifting. Just use the Advantage Plus placements, and that should take care of about 90% of the issues. All right, now what happens here is I'm just going to jump to the next tab, and you'll see here that this is the actual ad. So this is now where we would actually create the ad that finally gets published onto Facebook or Instagram, Messenger, or wherever you want it to get shown up. You'd always have to select your page because you need to have a page that is associated with the actual ad, because essentially when an ad shows up, it'll say, well, this is this page. Now, not a lot of people use pages anymore in terms of organically or even looking at pages. So, but it is a requirement. You can't run ads without a page. So make sure you've got a page. Instagram account, same thing. You can select the Instagram account here if it's connected. Now, I don't do any ads for myself. I don't need to. But if you have, an Instagram account and you want to start publishing on there as well, to make sure that that's connected there. Ad setup, there's a few things you can do here. You can create an ad, you can use an existing post, or you can use the Creative Hub mockup, depending how creative you are or whatever you want to do. When you use an existing post, the main difference is that if you use an existing post, it means that it's already on your page, right? It's already been written and published, and people can already see it organically. Now, if you create an ad, it means that you're literally just creating an ad for this specific campaign, and it won't show up on your page if somebody just happens to stumble across your page. So those are the only two differences there. Catalog Plus, I'm just going to jump past that because that will be e-commerce, and we don't have enough time to dive into that really. Format, you can see here single image or video, carousel, or a collection. And the reason I just skipped past back to the ad set here, dynamic creative, is that once I turn this on, you see dynamic creative, you can provide creative elements such as images, headlines that will be used automatically to generate different variations for your audience. So certain variations such as automatically cropping an image or applying a carousel template depends on the creative elements and placements selected. And essentially what it means is under my ads, now that I've turned that on, it'll actually let me do a few other things. And I can select multiple images here. So if I would say, I probably don't have any images on here. I probably should have uploaded some. But essentially I can pick, let's say, that one, this one, and I don't know, that one. So I'm going to select 4 images, and you can see now what happens is this one single ad will have multiple elements, and every time Facebook is going to display an ad to someone in your audience, what it's going to do, if I would pick single image or video, it's going to show one of these, and it's going to test. It's going to do like micro A/B testing on the spot, and every time somebody sees an ad, they'll have a different image, and we can start looking at the results to say, hey, we noticed that this photo is getting more click-throughs than that photo, for example. And same goes here for primary text. You can add an additional piece of text and an additional, and an additional. So you get 5 pieces of copy. I'm just going to turn the ad preview on. So what happens here? And let's say I'm going to just going to put a domain in there. So what happens here? This is an ad that potentially can be shown. But that same ad could also be shown now with this photo, for example, and then another piece of primary text, which is this main piece of text up here. We can also change the headline, and it's the same thing. We have about 5 options for headlines. And once again, you probably get the gist now, but essentially all these things will change, all these elements will change every time somebody will see that ad getting served up to them. Reason why this is one of the favorite things I do is I don't have to set up 4 or 5 different ads. I just set up one ad. I'll have it call it the dynamic creative ad, the DC, and essentially all the work I do, I can just do it in one go. Does that make sense? So what is the difference between advertising? Okay, yeah, cool. Thanks, Amy. So yeah, this is a very basic setup. So under your ad set here, make sure that you set up the dynamic, you tick on the dynamic creative section here. And because when I turn that off, you'll see that on this end again, this will now look different. So always have that on. It just once again gives you the opportunity to leverage really Facebook's algorithm and learning, machine learning, their AI, to really make the most out of what you're trying to achieve. Same for videos. You can select videos there. You can also have a carousel. So essentially you would have a carousel set up with, I don't know, maybe those 2. And what happens now is the ads that will be displayed, you've probably seen this before, you can have actually multiple images in the same ad where people can just go click them through. Every one of those cards essentially will be able to use one of the different headlines. And yeah, make sure that you test, right? So you can have ads running with single images or carousels, and I would just maybe have 2 dynamic creative ads. In this case, one of them would be carousels and one of them would be single images. All right, now if you scroll all the way down here, so let's say we've put our ad together, we're quite happy with the way that looks. We can check the feeds here to sort of get a preview of what it's going to look like on those. So on the Instagram feed, there's going to be arrows on the left and the right hand side. Yeah, anyway, so go back to the bottom here. Now, the important thing, and maybe you remember in the beginning, I said you need to have a page, but you also need to have an ad account, and you also need a pixel. The pixel is once you've created a pixel and you've connected it up to your page or your ad account, you basically can now select this option here, which is website event tracking. And this is important. If you don't have a pixel installed or it's not set up correctly, Facebook is not going to know what works and what doesn't work. So quite often I see a lot of people basically, they get started with Facebook and they do everything and they're very creative, but then they don't have the technology behind it set up correctly. And what it means is they're basically just throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks, right? Or whatever that saying is. And because you can't feed back to Facebook that, hey, these are the people that are clicking. But you're basically not tracking, and because you're not tracking, Facebook doesn't know who to start sending those ads to, because the way they learn, every week they want to get at least 50 events, right? So let's say we're going to be optimizing here for landing page views in the ad set, and we want to at least hit 50 landing page views per week. So Facebook understands from those 50 people that have taken this action, what they're going to do is they're going to try and find people that are similar, that they know are Facebook users or Instagram users, and they're going to start showing your ads to those people only, simply to get better at targeting. So super important, if you do not have your targeting or your pixel installed and set up correctly, essentially Facebook will never know if somebody clicked and did the thing that we're trying to optimize for. So they're just going to keep using the scattergun approach and just sending your ads out to everybody in the audience that we set up. So very important. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, pixel. What we got here? That's when you have the A/B. Yeah, so no, the A/B testing is a separate thing. So you don't have to turn that on the campaign level. The A/B testing is like, I'll set it up here. I'll show you what it looks like. If I turn that on there, This campaign will be version 8 in your A/B test. After you publish this campaign, you'll be prompted to edit a duplicate version to test against it. So essentially, you can A/B test your entire campaign. So not just your ad set or your ads even, but your entire campaign. So essentially, you would duplicate the campaign that you set up, and then you make some changes to the second variant. But because then when you get to campaign level, that's where your main budget goes in. So let's say you're going to spend $30 on this campaign. Now all of a sudden you're going to spend $60 because you want to make sure that both campaigns now have the same amount of money available. Whereas if I just use I'm just going to turn it off. Whereas I use the testing that I just shown you in the ad set level, I still use my single campaign budget, $30. But I could have 3 ad sets that potentially will all use $10 a day. So it becomes a little bit more affordable. So really A/B testing, I find, is for bigger budgets, bigger companies that are, have bigger budgets to play with. And then on the micro level, the dynamic creative here is really going to show you what ads are working specifically or what type of creative really works within those ads. So you can then learn and build out ads based on the information you get back from that. All right, a pixel. Okay, so what is a pixel? That's a good question. And I'm just gonna close this tab up here. We don't really need to be in here anymore. And then, okay, pixel. So once you get back into this section here, you can see on the left-hand side, just under the Meta logo, where it says all tools, this first section with the shortcuts, that always changes. So it might look different for me than it would for you. But essentially, whatever options you select here more often will start appearing up here. So your pixel is, hold on, let me quickly show you the audience tab, actually. You got the audiences here. And once you save an audience, it'll all show up in here. So for example, last week, I actually did the same webinar 2 weeks ago. We created this audience here. 35 to 55 male, female, small business owners. So essentially, this is you can create a new audience. You can have a custom audience, you can have a lookalike audience, and a saved audience. Saved audience is nothing more than you telling Facebook exactly like what we're talking about here. In Australian, 35 to 55 male, females, and they have an affinity with small business owners. Custom audience is where you can build out an audience, and this is where the retargeting stuff comes in. So let's say my source pixel needs to be installed, and the source would be your website. And if I select website there, what happens is they will say, okay, what's the pixel that you're using on that website? And what are the events that we have tracked that you want to build an audience from? So if I would say people who visited a specific page, so let's say they went to an offer page or a product page or whatever it might be, I can then say, look, I want to build an audience, people associated with this pixel that visited one specific website in the last 30 days. I think 180 is the max. And essentially, you can select here, okay, this page needs to, for example, have a checkout in there, in the link, in the URL, because now we know, okay, this is somebody who went all the way through checkout and then dropped out. And so you can really target people this way. Now, this probably warrants another hour of webinar, but this is essentially how you set up your retargeting audiences, because now that you've created that specific audience, you can build a new campaign and just use that audience that you're targeting here. Customer list is another big one. If you have a customer list, I would always try to upload that in here. Essentially what you can do with this is, let's say you've got an email list of 1,000 clients that you've already worked with over the years. You can upload it into Facebook, into your audience section. And then what you can do, you can tell Facebook to create what's called a lookalike audience. And a lookalike audience is essentially Facebook trying to figure out, based on those 1,000 people that we've given them, to find a very, very similar type of person, or build an audience full of very similar people. And hence the name lookalike, because we know that that's going to convert better than just trying, a wide audience that we're not really targeting. So building on a lookalike audience, and lookalike audiences are usually something that can really work well with the targeting underneath your ad set. So if I go back into the ad set of the campaign we just set up under here, now this initial ad set that we set together, this could be the custom audience that we just created, where we said, well, this is, location, age, etc., etc. That's not loading for whatever reason. on Facebook. Let me just refresh that. And what we can do is we can actually say, let's duplicate that whole ad set within the original campaign. We duplicate that, and then you'll see that I now have a copy. And in the copy, what I can do is I can keep everything the same, except I can say the audience that I want to use now under here. If I have a lookalike audience, which I don't at the moment, but I can select that audience. And essentially all it is that we are having an additional audience that we're testing against with the exact same ads, because you'll see that the ad we just created is still part of that duplicated setup. Does it all make sense? It's kind of like you really you build it once and then you start making iterations on what you've actually set up the first time. All right, so if we go back into here, the pixel. So underneath your data sources, you'll have a bunch of options: catalog, pixels, offline events, and we're not going to cover any of that because it's just we don't have enough time. But pixels. So in the pixel setting here, you can pick one of these pixels, right? And if I'm going to go to, let me quickly open up Ads Manager in a new tab. What I want to look for is, that's the campaign we're running. We want to go to the ad itself, because under the ad, we saw that you can select the website events on the very bottom. So you can see the pixel ID. And normally I look at the last four. So it's 1359. That's essentially my pixel. And I've got two pixels in there that are similarly named. So you can see this is one that's 115, and this is the 1359. So this is the pixel essentially that would be associated with that ad, and say, hey, if I install this on my website, that pixel specifically, now Facebook knows that this is tracking for this specific page, for this campaign, for these ads. And that's what you want to make sure of. Then in Events Manager, some of the things you can do in there is how to install your pixel. And there's a few things you can do here. Now, it'll give you information. I'm just going to pick another one that actually has some data. So you can see here, for example, the pixel tracking. So this is one of my clients, and we're running a couple of ads for some of their webinars at the moment. And what we can see in the last, 7 days, we can see there's a bunch of things happening here, right? So 127 events got triggered there. And we can scroll down and see, okay, what sort of events are we looking at? So page view is usually just the generic somebody visiting the web page and looking at it. So 1.2K. View content would be a specific landing page that would have looked at. Then invitee select day, that's connected up to Calendly. So this is essentially people that have actually tried to pick a time on an online calendar to book in with them. Purchases, this is they're selling some tickets. So you can see, we're getting actual ticket sales happening here, and usually that ramps up in the last on the last day of registrations. So there's a bunch of things in here that we can track. Does that all make sense? Because it is a bit complicated. I agree, and this is why I normally say, look, either spend some time learning this stuff or try to find somebody who can do this for you. Because you can go really, really deep. Like I've been doing this for 10 years with Facebook, and I still learn new things every day. So I don't blame you. So your pixel, once you want to have a pixel, and I'm going to go back to that pixel here. So the digital coach pixel, the one that's set up under our ads, what we can do is there's a button here that says add events. And then what we do is, from a new website, you can click, and then you'll get an option here to either send it, like when you're using a WordPress site, for example, you can actually get it done pretty straightforward. So there's a few platforms that will allow you to, with a couple of clicks, get the pixel installed. So BigCommerce, Drupal, HubSpot, Kajabi, Squarespace, WordPress. So some of the bigger platforms, there's just going to be like a wizard where you can click through and it'll automatically let you get this added. Now, if you don't have any of those platforms, another thing you can do is either email the instructions to your developer. So if you've got somebody who built your website for you, you can click on that. You can fill in their email address and say, hey, here's my pixel. Here's the code, the tracking code. Off you go. So basically give it to someone else who knows what they're doing. If you're a bit tech savvy, you can actually do the same thing yourself. You can just say install the code manually. And then, yeah, you copy the code here, you set up the events, but yeah, you kind of need to know what you're doing in this case. Another option is sometimes for sites like Squarespace, all you would need maybe is the pixel code itself. And they will have a section in their analytics or tracking settings where they're asking for this specific number. And that's what you then would basically add in. And yeah, that works really well as well. So the pixel is a bit tricky. And it's really understanding that you do need those three elements. If you don't have the pixel installed, then your ads are never going to perform as well as they can, because we're essentially we're blind. We can't see what's happening. All right, I'm going to answer some questions now. Is there a difference between the 4 Ads Manager, Ads Center, Meta Business Suite, Professional Dashboard? Yeah. Okay. So the tricky part is Meta is always testing their layouts as well. So when I log into my layout, it will look different. So if I go to the homepage, this might look more familiar to you. Having said that, this changes from time to time. If the layout is confusing, there is an option at the bottom here where I think it's the help section. Was it the help section? Business settings. There used to be an option, I'm not sure if they've got it anymore, to revert to the old layout. Yeah, they might have taken that away. Anyway, so business manager is essentially, I've got a few business managers here, and these are essentially what Facebook tries to do is every business should have their own business manager, or what Meta, I should say. And under the business manager, essentially what you can do is set up all your accounts that you want to manage through that business. So consider it like a campaign level. So your business manager is really the overarching suite that you would use to manage your entire online presence on Facebook with all the information you need to get everything up and running. Now, if you get into certain things like the business suite, let's see if that loads. No, let's see. I'm in a business suite. And this is confusing because this keeps changing as well. Like I quite often, I'll have to do reporting on site for a client, and I'll try to log into this, and all of a sudden the entire layout is completely different, and I'm basically trying to find my way around as well. So it is annoying, but yeah, that's basically what they're doing. Anyway, so yeah, this I can't show you the layout at the moment, but this is what it looks like for me. If I would go into any of the other accounts here, chances are that this might look different as well. Let's go business home. No, okay, I can't show you that. Apologies. We got Mark Zuckerberg to thank for that. But essentially, yeah, your business suite. Oh, what's this? You've got 2 pixels. Random hackers of Vietnam have got about pixels. That's no good. What if you got a website that doesn't allow pixels? Yeah, you should definitely change. If you're planning on running ads on Facebook, you do need a pixel. Well, you don't need it, but it's essentially pointless to run ads without it. So definitely, and I can't imagine a website that doesn't allow pixels. Like unless it's like a really, really specific type of website, I don't think I've ever come across anything that doesn't allow any additional code to be installed. So Annabelle, yeah, Ads Manager is your section where you manage your ads. So your Ads Manager is essentially up here. When you click in your Ads Manager, you basically get into your account overview for your ads, and this is all the stuff that is, you've got your dashboard here and your campaigns here. So this is really all you need to know about your Ads Manager. Then your next one is Ad Center. I've not heard of Ad Center. Is that the part that they use for boosting? It doesn't sound familiar. Meta Business Suite is quite often just how to manage your pages and your organic stuff and getting insights on your page and that kind of stuff. Professional Dashboard, I'm also not sure. I don't think I've seen that terminology around. So yeah, not 100% sure on that one. But everything you would need, all your tools are essentially underneath here. Your account quality, the billing section, business settings, events manager. So all the stuff you need to be able to run ads you can all find it underneath this tab here. The difference between advertising and boosting. Okay, so boosting is essentially yeah, Instagram, right? Okay. Yeah, so boosting is essentially it's the quick and easy way to try to get your ads out there, but the problem with boosting is that you don't have any granular control, and it's just sending out that one ad and hoping that something will actually work. Whereas if you set it up through the ads account, you can really tweak and adjust and refine. So, for example, you're retargeting stuff, right? So if you're going to retarget, you can't use boosting. It's just not made for that. It's really about boosting is like, okay, let's put a post out there, and I want to make sure that as many people as possible see this one post. But as an advertiser or marketer, you need to understand that that one post is probably going to, it might raise some awareness or get people curious. But then the follow-up is usually where you make the money. And the follow-up is like the retargeting, where now you really get people to go through the objections that they might have initially against purchasing your service or product. So boosting is an easy way to do things to get some engagement happening, but it usually doesn't really result in sales, or unless you've got a really great copywriter who's got a really, really good ad that gets people, hooked in straight away. So there are two different ways of working, and obviously, there's no right or wrong answer there, but I would always say if you can use the additional features, I would always do that because there's more benefit. If you reset Ads Manager, it will actually just refresh your Ads Manager for you. Now, if your account was hacked, I would reach out to Facebook support just to make sure that they are aware of this and that, it's been stopped and nothing is going to get taken out of your account. So Reset Ads Manager is more like a refresh button more than anything else. It doesn't really do much else for you. All right, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen because I'm just looking at the time, and I just want to make sure that we answer every question that you guys have. Hello again, there we are. Yeah, they could have done a password hack. However hackers get into your account, I've no idea, but they're smart. They know how to do certain things. You might have accidentally clicked on a fake link that pretended to be a Facebook link, and then it turned out that actually they fished for your password details. There's a whole bunch of things. How do you delete a pixel? So you can delete a pixel, you mean from the website itself or the back end of Facebook? Because you can go into the website and just remove the code. If you want to delete a pixel, you can basically disable it within your pixel settings. Did I cover everything there? Yeah, definitely, Kath. Definitely reach out to Facebook support and tell them about the hackers, because you don't want to foot the bill for that. A/B testing we covered, different ads ticking. Annabelle, Boops, that goes budget-wise, would you splurge, so to speak, if we do something at $10 a day? So my rule of thumb for advertising budgets, I would spend $5 per day per ad. So let's say you've got one campaign with two different ad sets, one blanket audience and one more detailed focused audience. And then the ads that you'll be running, I would spend $5 each. So you basically set up $10 at your account level. Then that $10 will get split between the two ad sets. But depending on what Facebook thinks is going to be a better performing one, they might either spend that $10 on one ad set, or they might spend it on the other, or they still even it out. But essentially, whatever you put at the account level, or sorry, the campaign level, that's going to go filtering down between the ad sets that you have available. Yeah, Facebook support is notoriously hard to access, unfortunately. Yeah, you can't really, you gotta keep trying. Basically, if you Google for I think it's Facebook support chat, then sometimes they'll have a page that sometimes has a chat enabled and sometimes it doesn't. So it's really hard to figure out, where to send people, because whilst I might see the actual support chat, you might go to the exact same page and they won't show you the support chat for, whatever reason they have. But unfortunately, keep trying, because essentially when you get hacked, they do take finances very seriously. So there should be a pretty straightforward way. When you go into the Facebook support page, you say, I want to report a breach of fraud or whatever it might be. Cool. All right. It's 11 o'clock. Yeah, you can inform the bank as well, for sure. All right. We're at the 11 o'clock mark, and I think that's it for today. So I hope this was useful. If you want to know more, like I said, please visit businessstation.com.au And yeah, if you hit the register button on the top right-hand side, you can book a session with me. You can book 3 sessions with me. And we basically do a Zoom call, and I will go through all your setup and make sure that everything is set up correctly. And I can tell you, if you would work with me privately, you're not getting that for $44. So well worth the investment. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day and catch you in the next one.